Hello, my wife has decided to leave me, and thus I have decided to create a guide to my favorite deck in Cedh, the Wise Mothman. At this point, we should all be familiar with the Wizards of the Coast Mothman pre-constructed deck. But this is different. We're running a food chain, we're running Thoracle, we're running Force of Will, and we're running Grist. This is Cedh. We are playing to win, and we are playing to win as fast as we can. But what does that mean for Mothman? For Mothman, winning in Cedh means that you're going to be playing mid-range. But I don't know how to play mid-range. Yes, you do. You're playing Cedh. The most popular deck is a mid-range deck. There's two sides of our mid-range coin, though. You have +1/+1 counters and mill. +1/+1 counters gives you beats and sometimes card advantage with Polywog and Agathas. And milling gives you disruption, card advantage, and in some rarer cases, combos such as Mindcrank Blood Chiefs. Now at this point, you might be wondering, if we're all running this mid-range, setup, why wouldn't we run the Master Transcendent, who can, reanimate things for free? Well, that's because he's stinky. But another reason is because Mothman's just better. You can go through one rings with your food chain combo, you get to beat people down, and your Birds of Paradise become the biggest thing in town since Ulamog. And now for the unfortunate truth we've all been wanting to avoid. We have to run lands. Ron fetches dual shocks, obviously, because who isn't? We're on 3 surveil lands because, quite simply, I like putting stuff into my graveyard, but feel free to trim these for more soul lands or a Phyrexian tower or something like that. Then you have Boseiju, who endures, and a very spicy pick, Otawara. You thought I was going to say Takenuma. Takenuma fucking sucks. And lastly, Gaia's Cradle. We're in a green deck. We're going to run Gaia's Cradle. And now we get to the control part of our mid-range game plan. As you can see, I've pulled some of our spicier picks from my list. You have Abrupt Decay. It can't be countered. I don't care that it's 2 mana. It says it cannot be countered. I don't care that it hits things only 3 or less. That's everything. Winds of Rebuke. Interesting considering we're in black and green until you realize, oh, wait a minute. This means that we get to pump our entire team for free when it resolves. I like that. Then, you have Nuclear Fallout. You get to kill all your opponent's stuff, and all of your big things live, and then get bigger. That sounds amazing to me. And lastly, Grist. I love Grist. Grist is one of my favorites. You get to get him off your Court of Calling, to then sacrifice your least favorite child to destroy your opponent's most favorite child. Unless it has hexproof, but... okay then. But yeah, Grist. Love Grist. Now we get to the control-int part of mid-range. This is where you would usually put all of your creatures that beat in for a lot. But with Mothman, that's all your creatures, so I'm instead going to put in some of our combo cards. We have Dark Ritual and Necropotence. That's obvious. We want to get a lot of cards in our hand, and Necro's good at it. So, we do that. We run, Born Upon a Wind and Crop Rot for an Emergence Zone to flash out all of the cards that we draw. Up next, we have our food chain lines. This is where you play a food chain, exile like an Eternal Scourge, cast your Eternal Scourge, make a bajillion mana, cast your commander an infinite number of times, and then your opponent's deck does a backflip and they lose life equal to the non-land cards in it, which I'm assuming is going to be more than 40, most of the time. Then, lastly, Intuition. Intuition is a funny one because you get to just find 3 cards and there's many different piles, but yeah, Intuition's good. It's kind of a bit weird at times and can get a bit tricky, but yeah, Intuition. Well, now we get to move on to our weird tech pieces in the deck. This is ordered from least weird to most weird, left to right. So we have Agatha Soul Cauldron, not a very weird pick. Mnemonic Betrayal, it's a bit weirder, but that's still seen in a lot of lists, just purely because if you stop somebody else's win, you get a win. Then you have Mindcrank. It's usually not seen anywhere except alongside Bloodchief Ascension for the kill, But you can just straight up play it in this deck because that means that your commander can become a... I think I've gotten it to a 22-22 in a turn cycle. It gets big quickly. Then you have Gyre Sage, the most niche tech piece I have found, where it's a 2-mana dork that will tap for much more than 2 mana very, very quickly. Lastly, for going over individual card sections of our deck, we have the gimmies. I save these for last because, come on, every single deck worth their salt around their strategy should be running these. We got Thoracle, Consult, we got Witherbloom, and Chain of Smog. People say to not run this once you can run Thoracle Consult. I say it's a 2-card combo that wins you the game for 4 mana. We'll see who wins. You get Rhystic Study, because it's Rhystic Study, and you get 6, because you care about things in your graveyard, surprisingly. And now we get to the playstyle of this deck. The idea is that you want to play Mothman early, and then you attack with Mothman. This will fuel your graveyard, make your opponent's mill probably key important pieces like lands they needed, or good tutors that they could have gotten, or I cannot name the number of times I have just gotten an Underworld Breach off the top. It's hilarious. Then you have Neoform and your other package of tutors, but I use Neoform here because why not? You use your tutors to get pieces that will help you advance your cards in hand and the board state in front of you. Basically, get value off of these. You can Neoform for a Dothy or Neoform that Dothy to get an Oppo, or when that Oppo has done its job and stolen, let's say, something from the Cedh player, you get Italian off your Oppo for free. Let's go! Lastly, we're going to talk about matchups. You have Cedh. Cedh is kind of a problem matchup, which is bad because it's a very popular deck, but it's gotten worse since the bannings, it's going down in popularity, and as long as you have Oppo Agent, you should be fine. Then you have Rogsai. Rogsai isn't good, it isn't bad, it's a very middle-of-the-road matchup. You have to keep a specific type of hand against them, you want to run a lot of interaction, but my deck runs quite a bit of interaction. Who knew? Force of Will's good. Then, lastly, Timnacrom. We love to fight Timnacrom. They can't do anything against you. You get to screw with them for free. They can't attack you because your Mothman is going to be bigger than a 4/4 by the time one turn cycle goes around. So they don't get free Crom hits, they don't get free Timna hits. You get to just pressure down their life total with Mothman because they're usually going to swing with Crom the first turn that it comes in. And yeah, you just get to screw with Timnacrom. However, there are 2 matchups that will go out of their way to completely fuck with your day. It's Tayam and Obnix. Tayam is obvious. You mill them. It's a parasitic relationship. They get free cards off your mill, and you get nothing, because they'll just reanimate a stacks piece, and suddenly you can't do your game plan anymore. So overall, fuck Tayam. We all hate Tayam. This is an anti-Tayam household. And then there's Obnixilis. Screw Obnixilis too. This is an anti-Obnix household. You're doing damage a lot of the time, one at a time. Because it's a rad counter. You're usually going to mill a non-land most of the time because 3/4 of their deck is non-lands. But that means that Obnix gets a counter, gets a card, and they don't even have to worry about your Mothman because they can just block and kill it for free. Fuck you, Obnix. Anyways, that is my love letter to Mothman. I hope you all give Mothman a try. However, I am not responsible for your losses, and if you don't decide to give Mothman a try, you should definitely not study this and watch it a bajillion times so I get more views. But yeah, that's Mothman.